All right, guys, welcome back. This is episode 18 of Let's Talk Ball. This week, we're going to talk about how Manchester is red. Ruben Amorim's Manchester United did beat Manchester City 2-1 this weekend, so I would love to talk about that. And then I'd also want to touch on the other title contenders dropping points. But before we jump into that, Spain, how are you doing?
Doing well. Happy Monday to everyone. Weather here in DC kind of sucks right now, but other than that, doing well. Enjoyed a nice weekend and ready for the holidays that are coming up. How are you?
Nice. Yeah, I am good as well. The weather here has also been a little dreary today. It's been wet, rainy, and gray, but that cannot get my mood down after seeing Manchester United take down City this weekend. I do want to jump right into that. We did a nice little live watch along. Shout out to Logan for being a good sport and joining us, being our guest on the stream. That was really fun to do this weekend, and even more fun since I got to see a win. And going into that win, I don't even know where to start. I mean, I guess like my biggest takeaways from that match were probably Amad Diallo just being the starlet that he is right now and showing up big time for us. And then I think a couple underrated performances were Harry Maguire. I thought he was really, really solid at the back, barely put a foot wrong, or if he did at all. And then Manuel Ugarte is also one that I think has kind of shut up some of the haters that he had early on. I don't know if anyone was actively, from like rival fans, was too down on him at the beginning, but there was a lot of skepticism in the United community, even from myself, as to how well he would bet in. And I think he's been great. I think he's been our best midfielder, to be honest, and most consistent. And so those are the three players that I want to shout out performance-wise from the game. But in general, I thought it was a good game. It was not the most exciting game for a majority of it. I think there was a lot of play in between the thirds, but as it got to the final third, not a whole lot of quality in the final thirds from either team. I think Man City only generated 0.29 XG from open play, only had 18 touches in our box, which is the fewest I think of that Man City has had in any game this season. And then United on the other end really kind of struggled to create too many big chances. I think the one that sticks out to me was Højlund slipping in Bruno as he ran in behind, and Bruno had a one-on-one with the keeper, tried to chip Ederson, and ended up hitting it wide. That was a big chance to get back into the game at 1-0. And then, obviously, we have the chances generated by Amad winning the penalty later in the game from the poor tackle from Mateus Nunes. And then the goal that he scored at the end of the game where he dinks the ball over Ederson and is able to slot it in as he's going towards the end line there. But Spain, I guess as a neutral fan, what did you think of the game? What did you see? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, first off, I enjoyed doing that live stream. That was a good time. Shout out to everyone that joined in the chat. It was great having people to chat with. That was the second one we did, but just love doing those. Always get some good laughs, and it's a good time.
Mm-hmm.
The first half I thought was a little boring. There was that Bruno chance that was towards the end of the first half, right? Or was that in the second half?
Honestly, I can't remember. I think it was in the second half because I know this doesn't mean anything, but I think we were going that way, which was second half for us.
You're right, because I remember saying also that Bruno hadn't really done much, and I probably wouldn't have said that if that big chance happened in the first half. But yeah, the first half I thought was a little slow, not much was going on, but the second half it definitely picked up, was more exciting, and in the end made it really exciting. So overall, good spectacle of an event, and lived up to the Manchester derby, all in all, given Manchester United's late comeback.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was a true derby, like you said. Like anything can happen. The excitement was there by the end, which I'm glad that we got. I'm glad it didn't end like a boring 0-0 or even that 1-0, because City's goal, I think, while it was a great header, just kind of felt like it came a bit from nowhere, just with I think they were doing a good job out possessing us and controlling the game a bit more in the first half than us. But still, for them to have the kind of deflected KDB cross and score that, if that was the only goal, I think I would have been disappointed in the match overall. So I'm glad we got some excitement, and some excitement that went the United way. I think a big storyline coming into the match that I want to touch on was Rashford and Garnacho being
Yeah.
dropped from the match day squad. I think that's a huge call by Ruben Amorim, and one that I deeply respect. And it does worry me for the prospects of Marcus Rashford specifically, not so much Garnacho, but I did want to talk about that real quick. And from my perspective, like I said, I respect the move from Ruben Amorim. He came out after the game and before the game saying it's not disciplinary. This is not like they did something wrong, broke team rules. He just believes that he's someone that is thorough in his analysis and in his decision of who should be starting, who should be playing, who's making the squad. And he felt that Garnacho and Rashford both just hadn't reached those standards as far as training and the way that they carry themselves. He said, I think his quote was, I look at how these players eat, how they put their clothes on, how they do everything. Every little detail gets taken into consideration. And to him, he didn't feel that they were up to par. I'm sure there might be some stuff going on behind the scenes. I think there was rumors about lineup leaking. I've seen rumors, this might be completely baseless, but that Garnacho and Rashford got into a bit of a spat in training, and that might have been something. But all that to say, I think it's a huge call to leave them out. But for them to leave them out and still get the win, I think is huge and sends a big message to the fans and the players that he's going to do what he thinks is best for the team, and that he's able to still put a team out there without having to kind of baby any star players or anything like that. I guess before I move on to why I think it's so concerning for Rashford, what did you think as a neutral?
I was shocked to see that, especially because Rashford was in good form. Garnacho wasn't starting all the games, but he also has been playing pretty well, having a solid season. And two players you definitely want for this big game, even if they're not starting, to bring on because they are difference makers and goal scorers. So for them to be completely dropped, I thought there was going to be more to this story than what we've heard so far, and more like a disciplinary reason. But you guys got the win without needing them, which is important. And I think it's great from Amarin. I think it's kind of similar to what Arteta did when he came in. He's cutting all the BS that was happening around the scene with Aubameyang and Ozil, making really hard decisions and saying you guys have to buy in, and we're not taking anything lightly. So assuming this is kind of like the route he's taking, Amarin, we don't really know why he left off these players, but I think it shows his leadership skills and that he's the man in charge, and he expects 100% from every single player. And I think that's what United needs to change the culture around the club.
Yeah, and he specifically quoted the culture in his post-match interview when asked about the decision again, and he said, like, one thing that I thought was like a very nice touch, honestly. He said, you know, if there's people at United at the club that are losing their jobs over all the changes that we're trying to make at a club level, like, the standards have to be really high, even down to the players and how we select the players for each match. Like, it's not fair if people are losing their livelihoods over this and then the players are still putting out subpar performance, subpar effort. So I think I respect Amarin for taking that angle and taking that stance. And I think the players that earned their spots will respond well to this, but I also think Rashford and Garnacho are two players that will respond well. I loved seeing Rashford immediately after the game was posting, cheering on the team, and like, not, I guess, I mean, of course, like, it could be PR, it could be this, but I do think it was a nice touch to see that he went out of his way to post and shout out his teammates for the big win. And I guess to move on to why I think it might be a little bit worrying for Rashford, if he can play his way back into form, back into the team, back as a regular starter, I think that'll be awesome. But right now he's in a peculiar situation where I think United are in a bit of a PSR or financial fair play pickle, and he's a homegrown academy talent. And so his sale would be pure profits on the books. He's one of our highest wage earners, I think a top 5 wage earner on the team. So getting him off the books would be very helpful to us financially. I just don't know how I feel about selling. I mean, Marcus Rashford is my original star boy as a Manchester United fan. Like, I feel like I grew up along with him, so I don't think I can ever, in good faith, endorse his sale. But I do see why it makes sense, and I do see that he doesn't quite fit perfectly into Amarim's system. I think he's a good enough player that if he's firing on all cylinders, he's someone that you have to figure out a way to get into the team regardless of if it's a perfect fit or not. But if he's not performing well and consistently each week, I definitely see how you might sell him and try and get a better fit in the squad. I'm not sure who comes in and replaces him as well as I would like, but it's still something that I think you have to at least be open to. And so I think that's something to watch because I've seen more and more reports over the last couple of weeks, as Rashford has been playing more inconsistently, that Manchester United is open to and willing to sell Marcus Rashford if the right price is put up by a team. So that is going to be something to watch, especially in January. If United's looking to really help their PSR issues, I don't think that there would be gaining momentum for these reports, regardless of if they're super credible or not, if that wasn't something that's on the table for them. So that's going to be something super interesting to keep an eye on from a United perspective.
Yeah, it's not like he's been like the most engaged player at United over the past couple of years. So I'm seeing, for whatever reason, this come up is not something you really want to see. You want to see him more focused. So I wouldn't be surprised if like something like this happens again. Just kind of because of what's happened in the past with him not being the most focused player at United. And I would not blame United for wanting to sell him for all those reasons that you laid out. Although there's like your squad isn't that deep. I mean, you have Anthony, who doesn't start, who can come on, and then you have Garnacho, who's not starting right now. Mount just got injured, but you don't really have much of a deep team. So if you do sell him, you're going to want to replace him somehow because he does provide some goals and just like a body and goals when he's in form. So I don't know what they're going to do if they do sell him. Like, you don't want to necessarily, but it'd be hard to say no given the pure profit and his huge wages.
Yeah, I agree with the not having having the depth there. I think in those front, I think he could play in any of the front three, but I don't think his ideal position in this system is at the striker. I think that's Højlund's position, and I don't see that going anywhere unless Højlund gets hurt. And then as far as like the two attacking inside forwards, I've seen him play on the left and the right for us now. And the only other players that can play in those positions right now are Mount, like you said, that's injured. Ahmad played there, but I think we kind of need Ahmad at right wing back in a lot of situations just because I think we look really stale. And I think that was part of our issue in the first half against City is when we play Dalot and Mazraoui as our left and right wing backs, they're tasked with kind of holding the width and providing threat from the wings. And I think they're both really good footballers, but at the same time, I don't think they offer quite enough threat from outside, from the wings in the final third. I think they're perfect for early build-up, like in our own third and then moving through the middle. But once you get to that final third, you need a little bit more quality and attacking prowess. I think it's hard to get that constant threat from them. I just don't think those are the types of players there. So all that to say, I think Ahmad might be our best right wing back, maybe even Anthony coming in back into the four for that reason as well. But all that to say, going back to the Marcus Rashford conversation, inside forwards we have Garnacho, Rashford, Bruno, Ahmad, Mason Mount, all fighting for those inside forward positions, and then Xerxes can kind of rotate in there as well. But Mount is injured and is not necessarily reliable there. If Ahmad is being needed at right wing back, then he's being moved out to the right. So that's now you're down to Garnacho, Bruno, Rashford, and Xerxes kind of. So that's not leaving a whole lot of depth there, like you said. So I don't see us getting rid of him. I don't see us getting rid of him in January, but if we do in the summer, we definitely have. I don't think there's any way we get rid of him without having a marquee signing lined up on the back of it. But yeah, just a situation to monitor, and we'll see how that goes. But let's talk about more of the positive. Oh, go ahead.
I was just real quick. What's playing with Xerxes? Because you guys just brought him in, and now with Amarin, you're saying you don't really see where he fits into the squad. So I don't need to like go too deep into this. But what's the plan with him? Do you want to keep him? Do you try and just like get rid of him real quick?
I think he's a good enough player and shown it. I think he's someone that I was a little bit worried about the first couple games under Amarin, but I'm starting to see the vision a little bit more. I think he's got good hold-up play and links up really well with players like Ahmad and like Kobbie Mainoo and these players that are good at like the quick interchanges. I think he links up well with them. And I also, to the point of what I was just saying, I think I think he complements Marcus Rashford and Garnacho really well because these are players that really want to provide threat in behind versus Xerxes isn't the threat in behind. So if Xerxes can kind of do his hold up play and then find Marcus Rashford and Garnacho as runners, I think that game plan works really well. That's what we did against Everton and ended up winning 4-0 against them. I think that was one of, if not Xerxes' best performance in a United shirt to date. So I think that's kind of the plan with him. Just kind of use
Okay.
him as a utility forward, like someone that can kind of come in and play any of those front three positions and just kind of provide a bigger body up front that we can use a little bit as like not a target man in the box, but a target man like when it comes to playing out of pressure. I
Mm-hmm.
think he's really good at holding up the ball and kind of finding teammates and bringing them into play. So I think that's kind of going to be his role moving forward. But it'll be
Okay.
interesting to see how Amram likes to use him.
Yeah, so basically a different style of tactics for the team. Like same formation, but play Rashford and Garnacho and start Xerxes instead of Hoyland, and then maybe drop Bruno down or something or rest Bruno. Bruno's never rested, but maybe drop Bruno down to one of the holding midfielders. And
Yeah, exactly.
yep, makes
Exactly.
sense.
So I think that's the vision, which is why I still think there's utility for players like Rashford and Garnacho, especially with how much Emerim likes to rotate. So I think it's still early days and we need to see. But right now, it is interesting. Like I guess Rashford is just on too high of wages for him to be someone that's not a star player and not someone that is used in the first team consistently. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested to see how that goes.
Yep.
Let's see. I wanted to touch on Manchester City again. So that I think that's one win out of, it's not 11, is it? Or something crazy like that. Um,
Pull it up
they
if we can
are,
look.
yeah, they are really in trouble. And I don't know what to make of it. I think they just look, we've touched on this in the past pod, so we don't have to go too much into detail here, but they're really both they're not looking at it physically, but also making really mental mistakes as well. I think it was very telling that Bernardo Silva came out after the game and basically called Mateus Nunes. I don't think his exact words were idiot, but he said, "When you come out and make a challenge like that, it's just stupid." And he said, "When you play like under 15s for the last 2 minutes of the game, that's what happens." And it was a pretty brutally honest interview from Bernardo Silva, and like they all seem very frustrated. And I do not envy a single player or person involved in that situation right now because it just seems like the house is burning down and no one really knows how to stop it.
Mm-hmm. It's fun. So what did he say about the U15s? Because I was looking, there's no academy kids that got brought in for this game. I guess he was speaking more generally or speaking about
No,
Nunez
he was
being
talking
playing
about the
like a.
team. Yeah, he was talking about them as a team. He just said you can't. He basically said that they have been or that they played the final 2 minutes as if they were an under 15s
As
team,
if,
like
yeah, yeah,
comparing
yeah.
themselves to an under 15 team. Just as far as like the mistakes that they made were schoolboy errors and things that you can
Mm-hmm.
never get away with.
Yep. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it has been one win in the past 11 games for City.
yeah. See, that's incredible. Incredible to
Yeah.
think that that's where the former champions have fallen. And I mean, you could see the frustration on everyone's face as soon as I felt bad for Nunes or Mateus Nunes because like he's one being played all over. Like he's gone from playing left wing to I think he was left back. He's been played in midfield sometimes. So like
Mm-hmm.
he's not really been able to settle. And I think that was also part of his issue last season was like he couldn't get into the team because he couldn't quite find a position that suited him. But then to do that in such a high profile match, to give the bad back pass away and then go make that dumb foul, which then leads to the equalizer, I did feel for him. I mean, you could just see the reaction on all. Like, I love the angle of you could see Ahmad getting tackled by Nunes, and then in the background you can see Pep and John Stones both just hands to head, like, "Oh no, I cannot believe you just done that." It was honestly one of my favorite scenes from the whole match.
Like, can you please, after this, go and clip Pep in his press conferences when, like, the first 2 months of Nunez, when Pep was saying he's one of the best players in the world, to the end of
Yeah,
this? That'd be a great clip. Because
that would be a
I
great
remember
clip.
him saying that when Nunez first joined, he's the because that's kind of what Pep does.
Hmm.
But he did say that for sure.
Yeah, he did. He did. And I mean, I feel bad because I feel like if you just played him in his like regular like number 8 like midfield role, I think you could see a lot of good things from him. Like he's one of the best ball carriers I've seen in the league. He just I don't know for what reason, but Pep just doesn't want to play him there.
And John Stones has to be injured, right? Because he didn't even come on. Like, why would you not play John Stones at center back, put Guardiola at left back? That's a
I
much more
think
natural thing.
yeah, let me look. I think John Stones, if he I know he didn't
He was on the bench.
start. Did he make it on the field at all?
No, he didn't
Let's
come on
see.
at all.
Wow. I think he was warming up to come on, and then I guess whatever happened because he was the one in the clip. He's standing next to Pep as if he was like about to come on the field, and I don't know if maybe like the game state changed and like they had to put on an attacker instead of John
Hmm.
Stones or something like that.
But yeah, I mean,
But
but still,
yeah,
just not start him. He has to be injured.
yeah, I think so. I think he is coming back from injury, and they're just trying to protect him a little bit with minutes.
Hmm.
But either way, City's a shambles. Thank God we benefited from it. From a United perspective, coming into the game, I was thinking, this should just be the most perfect bounce back opportunity for Pep City against United. So I'm glad that United was able to still pull off that win.
Hmm. Do you want to speak on just some of the general non-soccer talking points? I thought there were some good ones from this game we can go through quickly. You posted something on Instagram on your Touch Talks Ball account, but I thought the Kyle Walker falling down was hilarious,
Yeah,
and then for Hoyland to make that caption on Instagram was also hilarious. Roy
yeah,
Keane to talk about it. There's like three good talking points there. So, any thoughts
yeah.
on that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like one of the most satisfying just run through all the internet reactions and stuff like that post match for me. Like Kyle Walker's flop was ridiculous in the first half. Him and Hoyland kind of get into it. I think he fouled Hoyland. Hoyland gets upset and walks up to Kyle Walker, and they meet heads, but there's nowhere near a headbutt. They just kind of put their heads together, and then Kyle Walker, for some reason, thinks, "Oh, I can go down here and maybe get something." And seeing the way that he flopped was hilarious, and the way Hoyland played on it after the match, I think his exact words were "Manchester's red, violets are blue." I forget the second line, but then he said, "But the Oscar goes to end it," and I
Yeah,
just thought that was perfect. Very his caption game has always been strong, even
nice.
since last season. I think that's one of Hoyland's favorite things to do is come up with a clever caption, but that might be his best one to date.
Yeah, it was really, really good. And against your Manchester rival too. Yeah,
Exactly.
peak.
After a win, I mean, that is peak. It's peak. And then Roy Keane also said, "I don't know the guy, but I would be embarrassed if I was him, but I'm embarrassed for him." Was his exact words to Kyle Walker, and just seems like a Kyle Walker just cannot get out of the not get out of the spotlight in a negative way at this point. After
Hmm.
last game, people were flaming him after the Champions League match, and I mean, I don't approve of the abuse that he's been getting. He has been getting a lot of abuse online, but he just cannot stay out of the memes, and I don't think he did himself any favors with his antics on the weekend.
Definitely not. Yeah, not condoning the hate he's getting online, but he is doing it to himself in terms of being a talking point. But doesn't
Yeah,
deserve like any hate or threats or anything like that. But still, he's doing it to himself a
yeah,
bit.
yeah. I got you. Got anything else from the game?
No, I don't think so. I think that was it from the game.
I got you. Yeah. So yeah, we can move on. We've talked about United enough. I'm sure I'll touch back on that if I remember anything. But I do want to quickly touch on some of the other results from the weekend. A big one was Liverpool won, Fulham won. You saw Andy Robertson go off with a pretty silly red card. I thought you could have made an argument that maybe Van Dijk gets there, but um, he went off early and oh no, that was 2-2. Sorry, not 1-1.
2-2. Yep.
2-2. But yeah, Liverpool ended up dropping points to Fulham. I think that's a big result for Fulham, and I think the one talking point I wanted to shout out was from a U.S. and American perspective. Anthony Robinson was mint. I watched his every actions comp on Twitter afterwards, and
I
he
to
was
watch that.
everywhere. He was all over the field. He was making tackles. He was tracking back. He was getting forward. The guy just has an unreal engine on him. Never stops running, and he's rapid at that. So I thought that was a performance that was worth noting in the pod this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about that last week. Shout out to you for calling that game in our rapid fire predictions. You called a Liverpool Fulham draw, and then we talked about that a little bit in the last pod. I think I shouted out Anthony Robinson just because I think he's been having an incredible season. He did well against Saka, did well against Salah again this week. Came up with 2 assists as well. The dude's a beast. Absolute engine. He's so athletic. He's in such good shape. I saw an interview where they brought him on to guess the fastest players in the Premier League from each team for what they were clocked at, and they asked him for Fulham, and his first guess was me. Thinking it was him, just because he's been interviewed. So good guess, and he is fast.
Yeah.
But it ended up being the second guess was Adama, and he made a point that Adama's rapid, but he made a little cheeky comment. He's faster than me, but he can only make about 1 or 2 of those sprints a game. I can do about 50 100-yard sprints a game, and I swear he probably had about 50 of those against Liverpool.
Yeah, he did.
He was flying up and down.
Yeah, I like that. That's cheeky. But I think he's someone to watch, especially coming with the 2026 World Cup coming up. I hope that he's someone that's going to be in top form. And then even coming this summer, I think he's someone that could get snatched up by a bigger club. I know United we're definitely our number one needed position right now is left wing back. And he's someone that I think could fit the bill just because he offers so much going forward, but can still put in the work defensively. And we need someone that can kind of carry and have that engine that he does. So I think he's definitely on the United list, but we'll see how that goes. But I wish him nothing but the best, and I hope he can be in form along with Pulisic and some of these American players that seem to really be finding their footing in European football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really love his mentality from Robinson. And also, speaking of American players, just a little tangent, shout out to Weston McKennie for his goal, his little scissor volley against Manchester City this past week to beat them. And shout out to Timothy Weah for the assist to McKennie, both playing for Juventus. Doing well.
Yep. That was sweet to see from an American United fan, seeing 2 Americans take down City like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see. I guess to touch on and put a bow on this game, I think one thing I wanted to call out was that we kind of mentioned that the variance hadn't quite caught up to Liverpool as far as like just decisions going against them and that kind of stuff. And I think the call was fair, but them getting a red card early on in this game and having to fight back, like honestly, good on them for still, in a way, dominating a lot of parts of this game, even down to 10 men. I thought it just goes to show that the quality that they have. They are still able to sustain so much pressure on Fulham to where they were able to get that equalizer at the end from Diogo Jota. And then they also won the game on 2.13 XG to 1.22, 3 big chances to 1. So even down to 10 men, Liverpool fought at Anfield. So they're going to be a tough team to take down moving forward, but hopefully they can keep dropping some more points like they did. And then also one thing to watch is Curtis Jones went down with the injury, who I think has been a key player for them. So interesting to see how they're going to react to that, how serious the injury is there.
Yeah, I was really hoping that Fulham were going to hold on to that win, so Liverpool drop all 3 points. But Jota is fit again, so that's a really big boost for Liverpool in terms of goal scoring because he is a really, really incredible finisher. And whether it's coming on late as a sub or starting, he will get plenty of goals for Liverpool, which will go a long way in their title challenge. One thing I wanted to bring up, though, was their defense. Their defense looked pretty weak today, against Fulham. Kwanzaa looked especially uncomfortable and lacking tons of confidence. I feel pretty bad for the guy because coming into the season, he got immediately dropped, I think, in the first game or in the second game, got pulled early, and then has had a hard time finding minutes just because he's been pretty poor and Arne Slot doesn't seem to trust him. But because of some of their injuries, he played against Fulham and looked really, really, really poor. And like I said, lacking lots of confidence. So that looks like a weakness for them if they have to play Kwanzaa, and Joe Gomez also doesn't look the best at the moment.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well, specifically about Kwanzaa. It'll be interesting. I think Konate is nearing coming back, but not quite ready to come back. I think once he comes back, that's going to make their defense a lot stronger. But I did
Hmm.
feel for Jarrell Kwanzaa because, like you said, he got yanked versus Ipswich, and Arne Slot basically called that out in the post-match press conference blatantly. He was like, "I just didn't think he was good enough. He wasn't winning his duels, and that's why I yanked him at halftime." And since then has had a hard time getting back into the team. He finally gets back into the game this past match, or he's played a couple of matches since then, but gets into the game here. And I remember there was at one point where he basically had a bad back pass or something that gave Fulham a free corner towards the end of the game that could have been dangerous and that they could have scored on. And it was nice to see Van Dijk kind of being a leader and coming back to pat him on the back and be like, "Hey, man, keep your head up. Like, let's keep going. Like, you still got more game to play." But you could just tell he's a player that's low on confidence right now.
Yeah, you can really see it in his face.
Yeah. So, you got anything left on Liverpool?
No, that's all I got from that game. I
Yeah,
guess
that's all I
Trent
got
was
as well.
Trent was
Yeah.
subbed off. I'm assuming it's just because he subbed out kind of early. I'm assuming it's just because he's not 100% fit coming back from injury and not a re-aggravation. But there's also something to watch just because I would expect him to play a little longer the game.
Yeah, I mean, he made it to the 80th.
Oh,
Um,
okay, okay.
yeah, he made it to the 80th that I'm looking at. But as someone that brought him into FPL, I would like to see him kind of contributing a little bit more. Like, I didn't think he was a ghost in the game, but for his price in FPL, I'd like him to be noticeably one of the best players on the pitch. So it's something to keep an eye on.
Okay, yeah, he did play longer than I expected, so he should be fine then. But yeah, I guess
Yeah.
part of it might have been just the one pointer. I hear a lot of chatter about Trent's one pointer being disappointment more than anything.
Yeah, a lot of people brought him in expecting a big game. I think even people that aren't FPL people were talking about how Trent would be probably an X factor versus Fulham, who likes to play a mid block, keep things kind of tight. You need someone that can kind of play those balls over the top. This Trent specialty just kind of like slice through the ball, cut through the defense. They thought he would really come in handy versus Fulham, which is a big reason that I decided to bring him in this week. So definitely disappointed with that one pointer.
No, that's all from that. We can move on.
Yep. All right. Let's talk about the other title contenders that dropped points this weekend, and that is your Arsenal. That was a 0-0 draw versus Everton. What did you think about that game?
Yeah, we got the Sean Dyche Classic from Everton. Two shots, like 23% possession, 0.08 XG, I think. But they still came out with a point. That's not giving credit to Sean Dyche, who does set up their team well. And that's taken away from us having a poor performance, which plays more into the result than Dyche just setting up his team in a certain way. We've been poor recently. We haven't been creating enough chances, and it came back to bite us again. Kind of the same story the past 3 weeks. It's a bummer. It's frustrating to watch because I think we've got a solid team. Defensively, we're super solid. We're just not creating those chances or finding that forward to score a goal. We had a few chances. Havertz played in a good ball behind Saka. Saka beat Mikalenko, made him look pretty bad because Mikalenko ended up falling down. And then Saka played a really nice ball to Odegaard, who took a touch, got it slightly caught under his foot, and then had it blocked, and then ended up going over the goal, or maybe like blocked and then Pickford save. That was like one of the main chances for us. Other than that, just did not create nearly enough good chances. I would have liked to see
Yeah.
Odegaard finish that, but other than that, just a boring game and poor performance offensively from Arsenal. What were your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, I watched a good bit of this game, and yeah, just Arsenal left a little bit want to be wanted. For them to have 77% possession, and I think there's only one big chance created. I mean, credit to Sean Dyche, like you said, that's just what he does. He knows how to lock it down. He knows how to make a team defensively sound, and be able to kind of grind out those results like that. But still, for someone that's you're expecting to go on and win the league, contend for Champions League, that kind of stuff, you just would hope to see better. One thing that I thought was really interesting is Martin Odegaard undoubtedly makes Arsenal a better team. He's a leader on the field and, has helped kind of shore things up recently. But at the same time, he went through the Everton match with zero chances created, zero accurate crosses. I think he missed the one big chance of the match. And I think people have been putting him on a creative tier with KDB and Bruno, but I just feel like for you to have 77% possession and not be able to create a chance as like the main creator in the team, I just think there's something missing there. And it doesn't seem like Arsenal has a second option from the bench when he is not clicking or on full, like running on full cylinders or all cylinders. So that's something to watch out for. Like I think Fabio Vieira was someone that I think does offer that creativity and that passing range and a little bit more of that verticality, a little bit more of that directness that I think Odegaard's good at linking play, but maybe not as much as the direct play. Like I think he slows things down, but I was watching an Arsenal analyst and he was kind of talking about how he feels like he's got a little bit of a agenda against Odegaard. So I take what he says with a grain of salt, but he feels that Odegaard kind of kills transitions a little bit for you guys because you guys want to control play, you want to be more controlled with the ball, but at the same time, there's opportunities and chances that maybe should be taken a little bit more often that he feels are not. So I find that, I guess, what do you think about that from your perspective, someone that watches Arsenal week in, week out?
Yeah, that's a good point that he makes. I see where he's coming from. I don't have the agenda against Odegaard. I have more of an agenda for him because I think he's a fantastic player. But he definitely does stay on the ball more than a lot of players do. Takes a lot of touches. So I see where the guy's coming from when he says he does kill some transitions and likes to try and make the perfect pass and not lose the ball as opposed to like trying something or keeping the ball moving in transition. So see where he's coming from. And yeah, I definitely want to see him create more for us in a game like this when we're sitting around the box with the ball. We need him to do more, 100%. He did just have a kid, so I'm hoping he's being a good dad and taking care of the kid and just not getting the sleep and rest he needs. He even looks like gaunt in the face. I don't know if
He does.
if it's his goatee that makes him look that way, but he's looking gaunt in the face. So I'm wondering if it's just like the home life with a new baby. But he just doesn't look the healthiest at the moment.
It's funny that you say that. I haven't actually said that out loud to anyone, but I've noticed the exact same thing. Like he almost looks like he went from like looking very youthful and like I don't know to like he looks almost like a skeleton and almost like I don't know, like not a crackhead, but I don't know, just like a little rough around the edges for sure.
100%. Yeah, I've been noticing that the past. Part of it's the goatee, but it's really I've been noticing that. So it's funny though that you were thinking the same thing.
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit of a lack of sleep or something like that.
Yeah, I think it might be.
Yeah. Well, I wish him the best, and hopefully he can turn it around for Arsenal's sake, or not turn it around. He's not playing terribly, but like
create more,
basically help get things
have more
going,
output.
Create more because at this point, Arsenal. That's the one tweet that I see rival fans run with all week has been Arsenal has created no open play goals in the Premier League since end of November when they played West Ham. So last three games in a row. No losses, but no open play goals generated by the team.
Yeah, we have to do better, 100%. But speaking on this game, I do want to give a shout out to Miles Lewis-Skelly. Maybe he didn't have his best game or was like a standout. I don't think he was poor by any means, but I just didn't really do anything of note in this game. But I was happy to see him get a start at left back. A lot of fans have been calling for it. He was exceptional midweek in the Champions League. He set up our first goal really well. Super calm on the ball, got the ball left back, turned a player that was pressuring him without too much cover in behind him, and ended up playing a exquisite ball to break lines into Jesus, who played a nice ball across to Saka. And that was the courage we needed from a player. So it was really great to see an academy kid come up and be that difference maker in that game in the Champions League. So that's all to say that I love what he's doing, and I love that Arteta is finally giving him a little bit more time, give him the start in the Premier League. Because because we need to trust our young guns a little bit more, especially him and Ethan Wanieri.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was really cool to see him get that start as well. I've been seeing people calling for him to play more. It was always him and Ethan that were kind of coming up together through the academy that I saw them both getting hyped at the same time. And it seemed like in one area was getting his flowers, but MLS wasn't quite getting his chances. So excited or glad to see that he got his chances, especially just because I feel like he fits so well into the system for what Arteta's looking for. Like you can play him at left back, but he's someone that can kind of invert into the midfield and kind of play across different zones really well. Just seems like a really tidy player in that regard. So good for him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what he was doing, was inverting in, and that's exactly what he made that impact in the Champions League.
There you go. All right. Well, Arsenal drew, Liverpool drew. Chelsea was the only team to take advantage of that. They have now won, I think, 5 in a row. Maresca has those boys rolling. I think who'd they end up playing this weekend? They played Brentford, ended up winning 2-1. But it seems like they controlled most of the game. And I think just from the Chelsea perspective, I don't want to touch on them for too long, but one thing I want to shout out is Moises Caicedo balling, honestly. I didn't want to give him his flowers, but I've been watching a lot more of them recently, and I think he's been their best player, maybe outside of Cole Palmer. He is everywhere on the field. He reads the game so well, both with and without the ball. I think he's got an argument. There's an argument to be made that he's been the best midfielder in the league, to be honest. So I think he's one to watch out for at Chelsea. I think he's a big reason that they are contending the way that they are.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Did not love seeing Chelsea get that win just because of the title challenge we got going on right now, title race we got going on. But they deserved it. They've been playing really well. I'm glad Nico Jackson finally got a goal after the past 3 weeks, for only the past 3 weeks because of fantasy purposes. Surprised that Palmer didn't get a goal. I know we've talked about this in the past. Some games he just kind of isn't that creative or isn't really doing too much. And I feel like this is another one of those games where he was playing not a bad game, but didn't really get that many shots off, and wasn't really in the mix too much. But I really expected him, especially because Salah only had the assist, so he was on a 5-pointer. And then I was feeling really, really good one of the late Sunday games, having Captain Palmer. I thought for sure he would have at least gotten a goal. But for him to blank in terms of FPL was really, really surprising.
Yeah, I agree. Same exact thought process for me with Palmer, and I thought I had a gem on my hands with the Cole Palmer captain, and ended up being disappointing, which was the most annoying thing about Chelsea still managing to win that game. I think good for them as a team that Cole Palmer can. I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily call it a bad game. I think he was still influencing and doing good things, but still to have a more quiet game, and they're still being able to get good results out of the team. So good for them from that perspective. Bad for my FPL team. Yeah,
they're not relying on him to score or assist every goal like they were last year, it seemed like.
Yeah, exactly. And before I move on, real quick, I got this breaking news notification literally as we were talking about United earlier, but Mudryk looks like he just tested positive for doping. So something to watch out for there. Hopefully, I don't know if they're going to give him the Pogba treatment, but that was at least a year-long ban for him. So that is something to watch out for. And as I'm talking about it, there's people in the soccer group message talking about it that I keep seeing the notifications pop up. Apparently Enzo has the same trainer, so I guess watch out for that as well. But Mudryk, at least, I think, has gotten in trouble. So
interesting.
Yeah, he's already not playing much for Chelsea, but I don't think this is going to help his case.
No, definitely not. He does seem like someone who cares more about his physical fitness abilities, almost more than his like soccer skills. And like some of the videos I've seen, he really idolized Ronaldo and really almost like looked like he seemed took his training too far. So I don't know if he was taking some doping Hope because of like that kind of mindset he had, or whether it was a mistake and trainer's
Hmm.
fault. We'll have to wait and see. Just interesting note there because I do remember him being really high on his fitness, personal fitness.
Gotcha. Yeah, that is definitely going to be something to monitor, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more as we get more news. This is just broke within the last 30, 40 minutes, so I'm sure there's still plenty more details to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to some other Premier League news and then eventually some FPL stuff. But talking about some other news, I want to talk about Wolves. Wolves lost 2-1 to Ipswich over the weekend. That is Ipswich's second Premier League win. They scored in the 94th minute to win the game. First of all, really good for Ipswich and Kieran McKenna. Very bad for Wolves. They just seem like they can't really catch a break right now, and the vibes are bad.
Real
Um,
bad.
you saw you saw, and I don't understand why, because Gary O'Neill, I thought, is a great manager, both at Bournemouth and at Wolves, but just something's going on at the club that is pretty insidious right now. And Gary O'Neill has lost his job as a result, following the results against Ipswich. But yeah, vibes are terrible. You saw after the West Ham match midweek, it was Jeremy Lamina, I think, that was just losing his mind after a bad handshake in exchange with Jared Bowen. And then not what you want to see that immediately following this game. Cunha got into a bit of a spat with someone from, I think, the Ipswich training team, and there's videos or clips of him with his hand in the guy's face. And then Nori also picked up a red card right after the match, or after the whistle had already gone, for a similar incident where he's arguing, fighting with someone from the Ipswich staff, and I think he also put his hands on him and ended up getting a straight red card after the match, which is so frustrating because gave up the clean sheet in FPL, had the yellow, finally picked up his fifth yellow so he would miss the next match, and then ends up getting a red card, getting negative points in FPL, getting himself banned for a match because of the red, but then it also resets his yellow count. So he still is on four yellows and still needs one more yellow and could miss another match. So as an FPL asset, extremely frustrating. I actually, spoiler alert, transferred him out immediately after I saw the red card. I didn't even care to
Good.
wait to get any more news. I got him out of my team immediately. Um, but yeah, the vibes at Wolves are really bad, and hopefully, I hate to see that Gary O'Neill was the one that went down for it, but I guess he's the manager. He's the only real thing that they can change. But I hope that they can figure it out.
Yeah, really bad from Cunha. I think he like elbowed some guy in the head and then ripped their glasses off from like an older, probably guy in his like 50s, 60s training staff
Mm.
from Ipswich. So terrible. Would not be surprised to see him get banned from at least a game. I think he should for that. I mean, there's no need for that at all. And yeah, I mean, the Cunha red card was hilarious in terms of FPL because I don't own Cunha, but just to see a different
Or
like
eight, nor you mean?
eight Nori, I think you eight Nori.
Yeah.
Just because like the FMLPL Discord I'm in, it was hilarious to see everyone freaking out on Twitter and whatnot. Yeah, I was debating getting him on my Week 12 wild card, but just thought because of how high up the field he was, like, he's got to fall into a goal or two, an assist or two, because he's
Hmm.
living up in the box. But his position kind of changed, and then I just knew Wolves were terrible, so I'm really glad I swerved him. But yeah,
Yeah.
bad luck for Wolves at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. And unfortunately for them, they won the game on XG, but yeah, I don't know. I think there's a whole lot of pent up frustration going on at that team right now. It just is a bit of a shit show, so they need someone to come in and steer the ship back going the right direction.
Hmm.
Let's see other notable results from the weekend. Spurs dominated Southampton. They went up 5-0 by halftime. I mean, I guess good to see Spurs bounce back, but it also is just the most typical Spurs thing you can see. Just complete and utter, just back and forth, up and down. They'll be bad one week and then go out and do this to Southampton the next. I think hopefully this is what's going to propel them to kind of get a little bit more consistent moving forward, but I've got no faith in that as of right now. Southampton's a pretty just terrible organization and pretty terrible team themselves. This result also got their manager fired. So two of the teams in the relegation zone have fired their managers and are trying to make now probably like midway push to try and get out of that. But I think Southampton might be a lost cause. Wolves might be able to put something together just because they do have quality players.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I thought was interesting was they had Aaron Ramsdale as a pundit during this game, even though he plays for Southampton. I guess he didn't make the match day squad, and they had him as a pundit. And I saw some Southampton fans were kind of outraged that the club let him continue on being the pundit during the halftime show when Southampton was down 5-0. Having him comment on his own team like mid game was very interesting.
That's really insane. Well, I did not hear about that. That's crazy, actually.
Yeah, like he was dressed in like a full-time part of the crew, not like they just brought him over for like a interview from a player. Like he was part of the crew, and everyone was saying they should have yanked him at half because it's just like you're gonna get bombarded with like I don't know all sorts of awkward questions and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was wild that he decided to go on it. That Southampton let him go on it. Whatever. Yeah, probably pretty ill-advised for a player to like take up like another job during the season while during the game while your team is playing. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Also, McKenna left early before the halftime whistle and missed their 5th goal. So
really,
yeah, he walked down the tunnel early before halftime and missed the 5th goal.
Wait, who was this? Like Russell Martin or?
Sorry, Russell Martin. Yeah, Russell Martin, the Southampton
oh my
manager.
God.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he probably knew he was done at that point. Yeah. I don't know if he had like conversations before the game and they're like, depending on how this goes, like your job's at stake or something like that. But
yeah, maybe he was walking in to turn in his resignation. Before is bad enough.
I'm really interested to see where he ends up because there's been a whole debate this season about, and it goes back to last season with Company at Burnley, but these managers that like to come up to the Premier League and still play their really possession dominant or try to play their possession dominant styles of play that translate to bigger club jobs. Because when you're in the championship, you can play like the biggest clubs, but then you get promoted and you have to change up tactics, I believe. And people were arguing like, is it right for these managers to come up and try and play this idealistic style of play? And it results in Southampton being bottom of the Premier League by far, giving up so many goals, playing a poor style for the Premier League, if it still earns them a job at a bigger club. Because Company came in, got Burnley relegated, and then ended up getting the Bayern Munich job, which is insane. And people were saying Russell Martin was probably sticking to his guns, trying to appeal to some of these bigger clubs that might eventually poach him. And so now that he's out of a job, that's one thing I'm going to keep an eye on is where does Russell Martin end up? Does he end up getting a bigger club move just because he's been sticking to his guns and sticking to his style of play, even at the sake of sacrificing results as a result of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really interesting point. I cannot get behind a manager that refuses to make any changes to their own way of thinking. Because Southampton have been absolutely diabolical in defense. They're gifting away goals for fun. The amount of mistakes they make in the back that lead to goals is insane, the way they turn it over. So this result, even though I picked Tottenham to win, just more as a joke last week, is so unsurprising for them to give up 5 goals in the half, is what Southampton have been doing all year. I just think it's straight up wrong for these managers to not make any changes in their way of thinking. And I feel like they're not taking any responsibility and saying it's not my fault. I don't think it's right for the club. It's not in the best interest of the club or the players to not change up your way of thinking whatsoever. So I'm not here for it. But you did mention Company did fail upwards incredibly well to Bayern somehow. Yeah. So I am also going to be watching very closely to see where Russell Martin ends up.
Yeah, because Russell Martin was viewed as one of like the most talented up and coming managers, I think, coming up from the championship, and then just put on this whatever you want to call it performance with Southampton. And I think he did blame it. He didn't publicly blame his players too much from what I saw. but at the same time, the tactics were exposing his players dearly. Like he just did not have the quality to play the way that he wanted to play, and I think that was obvious to everyone, and probably even including him. So I think it is very interesting to see the balance of like the manager's job is to get the best out of the players that he's got, and I don't think he was doing that, and I think it is a bit. I don't know. There's people that pay good money to come watch their team every week, and I think you should be trying to put on the best possible performance for them, and not so much regarding your career. But at the same time, it's a dog eat dog world out there. Like people kind of got to look after themselves and like their career aspirations. He's a young manager looking to still make a name for himself and whatnot. So pros and cons there. I'm not really sure what the correct balance is, but I don't know if I can endorse what Southampton's been doing for the last few weeks, and it sounds like the club believes the same.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see who Southampton bring in to replace him, because they definitely were a nice team to target in FPL, but
Yeah,
we'll see if they get someone a little more pragmatic in there just to try and see him out for this season and keep him up.
yeah. Let's see. Let's move on. I think that's really the end of the talking about the games from last week, but we can real quick go over our speed round or our lightning round predictions, and then maybe do one for the games coming up this coming weekend.
Sounds good. Yeah, I went 3 for 10, so pretty poor showing from me. It's been going that way in terms of my sleeper league. I've been really falling off in terms of my picks. So I got the Newcastle win right, the Nottingham Forest win correct, and the Chelsea one correct. Everything else I got wrong. And then you went 4 for 10. You got the Fulham draw against Liverpool correct, the United win, the Tottenham win, and the Chelsea win all correct.
Nice, nice. I actually believe I called a draw in the United match, but I was hoping for a win.
No, you called the win. I went back and watched the tapes. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
I called the draw. You called the win.
Nice, nice. I love that. I forgot about that.
Now you back your boys.
Nice. I always do.
Never was in doubt, right?
Never was in doubt at any point. Let's see. Okay, well, let's do this again for the games coming up this weekend. Do you have them pulled up? I got to pull it up here if you want to start with yours.
Yep.
Okay. Once again, actually, I'll tell you who's at home. So starting from the top with the Saturday games, the early game is going to be Aston Villa at home hosting Manchester City.
Two teams not playing the best. Villa though at home.
Wow. Okay.
12, if not 13, depending if City lose midweek. I don't know if there's a midweek game at all coming up.
Yeah, they probably have like a Carabao Cup, or I think it's Carabao Cup midweek right now.
Okay.
Let's see, and then we've got Brentford at home hosting Nottingham Forest.
Brentford, just because they're at home. They're good at home.
Okay. Ipswich at home hosting Newcastle.
Newcastle.
Okay. West Ham at home hosting Brighton.
Brighton.
Next, we got Crystal Palace at home hosting your boys Arsenal.
We're going to turn the ship around and we're going to get the win. It's Arsenal.
Nice. Now moving on to Sunday. Sunday, 9 a.m. game. This is Everton hosting Chelsea.
I'm going to go with Chelsea.
Okay. Fulham hosting Southampton.
Fulham. They haven't really solid lately.
I know new manager bounce for Southampton. I guess that's if they even get someone in by then.
Yeah.
Leicester hosting Wolves.
I'm going to go with the draw.
Okay. I think that's your first draw.
I really didn't have enough draws in there.
We've got United hosting Bournemouth at home. Or United's at home.
Go with United.
Okay, and then last game, big game this Sunday. Spurs hosting Liverpool.
Liverpool. Tottenham's consistency is going to come right back to them.
Nice. Nice. All right, a lot of good picks in there, I think.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll call them out for you now if you're ready. All
I am ready.
right, Aston Villa hosting Manchester City.
Give me draw in that one.
West Ham hosting Brighton.
Um, I'm gonna go with West Ham. I think Brighton's in a little bit of a rough patch, and West Ham's kind of gaining confidence right now. So I'm gonna go with West Ham.
Yeah, Brighton are definitely in a rough patch, but I thought they might. This might be the game for them to break that, but they've not been looking great. Newcastle going to Ipswich.
Um, Newcastle, they just look really good right now.
Brentford hosting Forest.
Mm. Give me draw.
Yeah, I think might be the hardest one to call, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I think Forest has looked really impressive to me. That's something I actually wanted to touch on for a second in the
Hmm.
pod. I think they look really good. Their midfield is just so they just got some dogs in their team. Like I think they kind of figured out the organization and their midfield of Yates, Elliot Anderson, Morgan Gibbs White are just all three of them are just as far as combativeness, physicality, all that are top notch. But Elliot Anderson's got a little techiness to him. Morgan with Gibbs White is brilliant on the ball as well. Like I just feel like they're always going to be a tough team to play against.
Hmm. Yeah, I went with Brentford quickly on that for my answer. Gave myself some second thoughts right after saying that, but I'm sticking to it obviously. But it should be a really good
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
Um, Crystal Palace hosting Arsenal.
Arsenal, I think they'll be fine. But Crystal Palace is looking good recently as well.
Hmm. Everton hosting Chelsea.
I'm gonna go draw. I feel like Chelsea has to slow down soon enough, and I think Sondage could do that to them at home.
Would love to see that. United hosting Bournemouth.
United at home.
Fulham hosting Southampton.
Fulham.
Leicester hosting Wolves.
Mm, I maybe a draw just because I think Wolves will have a bit of a new manager bounce, but I don't know if it'll be enough time for them to put up a lot of like score a lot either.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna go draw.
I'm gonna have to double check this, but I feel like Leicester have been getting some results at home, at least some draws. They've been, I think, pretty solid at home this year.
They have that's what I was because they were home. I was thinking about giving them the edge because they have
Hmm.
been able to consistently score some goals. I was just thinking Wolves will probably just set up to make it really tough for them. So we'll see.
Hmm. And then Tottenham hosting Liverpool.
I'm gonna say something crazy and go Tottenham.
Wow.
Yeah, that's I got nothing to really back that up other than Tottenham's
Vibes.
going to be at home and just vibes. Yeah, I think this is the type of game that favors a Tottenham. Not completely favors them, but I think they can kind of play this kind of back and forth, chaotic basketball game, and those are the type of games that Tottenham has the best chance in. So I think I'm going to go Tottenham.
Nice. Yeah, I think that this will be a fun game to watch. I think we'll be very back and forth, high energy. I think it'll depend largely on Liverpool's back line, who they
Hmm.
start and who's healthy for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I am also worried about Tottenham's back line against Liverpool's attackers.
Yeah.
They've got Dragusin, and then they started Archie Gray at center back last match just because Van de Ven and Romero are both still hurt. So that's
And,
definitely going to play a factor, but we'll see. I don't know. It's so hard to
and
predict Tottenham.
Pedro Porro didn't start for some reason. I'm assuming just for rotation, but he got subbed on early for um, Udogi, I think. So is Udogi injured, maybe?
Udogi started, but he might have been pulled off early for Poro. I know Spence was the other guy on the. He started at right back, I think, for Spurs.
Yeah, so Udogi came off in the 28th minute with an injury. So if he's also injured, that'll be also really
Oh
bad
boy.
for their back line because Udogi
Oh boy.
is a starter for them.
I guess, yeah. Let me add a caveat of if they're completely decimating the back line, then Liverpool probably wins, but I'm still going to stick with my Tottenham pick.
Yeah, yeah. All right, that's all for the lightning round. Move on.
Nice. It'll be
Do you have
cool to
time
keep
for a
like a
quick
counter of
FPL?
that. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, we'll make sure to keep a counter of that, and then whoever we'll put a little wager on it. But for the end of the season, whoever's got the most correct picks, do something like a small little wager.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, we can do. So it'd be something fun. I'll think of something, or we can come up with ideas for next week. Something related to our clubs would be nice. Some small
Yeah.
thing like a mug or something.
Yeah, I like that. I
All
like
right,
that.
cool.
That'd be cool.
All right. Well, we'll come up with a better idea for what the wager will be for next week. But yeah, we'll keep those tallies going throughout the rest of the season.
Nice, nice. All right, let's talk some FPL. Do you want to start?
Sure, I will start. Had a really good week this week, even with my captain blanking. So ended up on 66 points. Had no transfers in this week because I took two the previous week to bring in Isak and Gordon. Um, the points I got from my team, Isak came in with 11. Nico Jackson got me 9, which was huge. Pedro got me 2. The midfield, which I was really surprised about, was pretty weak. Salah got me 5, Saka with 3, Gordon with 6, and Palmer with 3. Well, they've really been changing these bonus points late because Palmer was on 2, then he went up
Yeah,
to
he was on two the
3.
whole game.
Yeah. And then I think even earlier today he was on 2. After the game he was on 2, but then he went up to 3 at some point, like today. Yeah, they're changing things, which I know the FPL community is not loving. But the
Hmm.
big performer for the week for me was Lewis Hall with 15 points. Absolutely
Hmm.
massive. Clean sheet, 2 assists. That was huge. Um, and Fabianski, wow, he got 4 points today. So should have thought about starting him over Brogan, but can't be mad with 66 points. Got a nice 280k green arrow. Yep, actually 320k. Yeah, as I was marking down notes, it was 280k. So they must have finalized or I guess after this West Ham game, they were still working on
Hmm.
the bonus points and whatnot. But yeah, so 320k green arrow. Really happy with the performance this week from the team. I'm up to 6th place in our league, and I'm only 5 points behind Bailey. So almost taking over Bailey, who's made no changes to his team all year.
Nice, nice. That is the standard right there. The
Yeah,
Bailey
right.
set and forget team.
Yeah. Logan Jernigan should take some notes from that way of playing.
Yeah.
The dude is doing the complete opposite. I'm glad
Logan
to
is.
see he's not on 4 points anymore like he was during the live stream. That might have been the highlight of the live stream for me was seeing Logan
Yeah.
at 4 points.
That is incredible. He was doing a speed run to the bottom of the list. I mean, he was even below Christian and who else that is down there in last place.
I'm on.
Yeah. Um, let's see. I'll review my week real quick. I ended up on 53 points after making two transfers this week. Ended up basically being a net zero, but I got a 4% green arrow, up 67,000 spots. Um, I guess I can't complain too much considering I had a -2 from 8 Nori in there. Um, I left 7 points on the bench with Mikalenko. I wish I started him over 8 Nori, but hindsight is 2020 there. And
Yeah,
then
away to Arsenal, you can't really justify
yeah,
starting Mikolenko.
exactly. That's why I had to leave him on the bench. My transfers this week were I went Bruno and Rico Lewis out for Ahmad and Alexander Arnold. And I'm a little bit disappointed in myself because I did really want to go. I really wanted to keep Bruno and go Semenyo to Ahmad, and then forego getting Trent in my team and just go for a cheaper defender that I knew I wanted in my team long term. But what happened was it just got to 8:29 a.m. The deadline was 8:30, and I just kind of I panicked. I was like, I don't know what cheap defender I want to get in. Like, and I was scared of the Trent haul coming back to bite me because I knew so many people were going for Trent. So I brought him in, and the only way to do that was to get Bruno out. But I would have had a huge week had I was able to keep Bruno and Ahmad, and I did a Semenyo to Ahmad instead.
Mm-hmm.
But is what it is. Hindsight 2020, I probably would have. Were you gonna ask who was I gonna bench?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to bench either Cunha or João Pedro.
Okay. So you're gonna back your boys, all three of your United
I
guys.
was gonna back all three of the United guys. Hoyland was coming off a hot week, who ended up only getting a 1 pointer versus City, so he's probably another one of my most disappointing performances. But I kind of knew that was a risk going into the week, regardless. But yeah, I don't hate my moves. I don't know how I feel about having Trent in my team long term. I think he's a great player, great fixtures, always a threat, but he's just so expensive that unless he's returning every week, I would love to redistribute the funds somewhere else, like specifically to my attackers. I would love to get an Isak or a Nicholas Jackson in.